Gather round, boys and girls. It's story time, and Mommy's here. That's right. I am Mommy. I am Muscle Mommy, and I am here today to read you all a wonderful story. You may have noticed I said gather round, boys and girls. If you're in my audience and you're like, I'm not a boy or a girl. I am a man or a woman or a non-binary person. Well, then get out, because today we are reading a book called Beautiful Differences, which is about the differences between boys and girls. They're two completely different animals, okay? Now, this book was written by the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Steven Crowder. That's right, the same Steven Crowder that I've talked about on this channel before. That Steven Crowder, conservative talk show host, conservative internet influencer, Steven Crowder, the guy who runs the Change My Mind show, and I guess his greatest contribution to society is that Change My Mind meme, where people put things in there that says, whatever, whatever, change my mind all the time. Yeah, I guess he gave us some good memes. He gave us lots of memes, and because of that, thank you, Steven. Thank you for the memes, Daddy. But memes aren't enough to justify writing a book for children.
I don't believe you.
Now, the other week on this channel, I talked about the Brave Books Publishing Company. Brave Books being a company that publishes books for children exclusively written by far right-wing influencers and conspiracy theorists. It was a wild ride. I highly recommend you watch that video if you haven't already. And then Friday after that, I collaborated with my friend Reads with Rachel, and we reviewed Kirk Cameron's book, which was published by that same company. Now we are reading Steven Crowder's book, which is also published by the company Brave Books. If you don't remember, Brave Books is a publishing company, has a mission, and their mission is to end socialism, promote capitalism, promote border control, promote gender differences, and draw animals like anthro-furries all the time.
We're on a mission from God.
This book doesn't have animals, though. It just has children. So we are going to read through this book together, and we are going to review Beautiful Differences. Let's do it! Let's go! What's up, my fellow small business supporters? I'm Savvy, and welcome back to Savvy Writes Books, the channel where we talk about books and business, where today I have another book review for you guys. But before we get into it, please take a minute and make sure you are subscribed to this channel, and make sure you ring the notification bell, because I put out new videos 3 times a week usually, so you won't want to miss those. And before we get too deep into our review today, we first have a thank you from today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Magic Spoon, my favorite brand of cereal, which has a variety of fantastic flavors and gives me extra protein every morning. Recently, Magic Spoon sent me one of their newest flavors to try, birthday cake. I was so excited to try this flavor because I'm one of those people who loves birthday cake flavoring in my ice cream, birthday cake scents in my candles, etc. So I was really happy to eat this new cereal, which brings out that fun cake flavoring while still maintaining 0 grams of sugar per serving and, like all flavors of Magic Spoon cereal, staying in that range of 4 to 5 net grams of carbs. In addition, Magic Spoon cereals all have 13 to 14 grams of protein per 1 cup serving, which I love. Most of you guys know how I've been trying to increase my protein consumption a lot over the past year, especially as I've been working out so much more. And that extra burst of protein has made Magic Spoon cereal a go-to post-workout snack or meal every day for me. I also love the physical bowls and spoons themselves that they offer to eat your cereal with. The spoon is so shiny and colorful, and both the bowl and spoon are completely dishwasher safe. And this might be kind of weird, but this is just one of those weird me things, you guys. But because I enjoy this bowl and spoon so much, I'm actually more motivated to run the dishwasher and remember to put the dishes away because I want to eat with this bowl and spoon again. You may remember that last month I talked about trying the new sugar cookie flavor of cereal as well. And I've got to say, I think that one is officially getting added to my list of favorites. I love how much it actually tastes like a sugar cookie, so I think that sugar cookie and cinnamon roll are my current favorite Magic Spoon flavors. But they also have tons of other flavors to choose from too, like cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, cookies and cream, and more. Your order of Magic Spoon cereal comes backed with a 100% happiness guarantee, so if you aren't satisfied with your order, you can get your money refunded, no questions asked. Magic Spoon cereals ship throughout the US, the UK, and Canada. If you're interested in trying some Magic Spoon cereal for yourself, go ahead and click the link in my description below, or go to magicspoon.com/savvy. When you're checking out, make sure to use my code SAVVY to get $5 off your first order. Thank you again to Magic Spoon for sponsoring today's video, and y'all don't forget to click that link in my description or go to magicspoon.com/savvy and use the code SAVVY at checkout. Now, let's get back to our topic. Alright, so what is Steven Crowder's children's book, Beautiful Differences, about? It says, a sweet story about the beautiful, God-given differences between boys and girls. So when the day's over, we can all proclaim, thank God boys and girls aren't just the same. Follow Mark and Maggie as they learn about what makes them uniquely different. So if you haven't seen my other video about Brave Books, the company that published this, the company is very against the LGBTQ community. They're very against people being trans. They're very against people moving outside of gender roles, having same-gender marriages, behaving in ways that are not stereotypically along with their gender. So this is a book that is intended to teach your children why if they're a boy, they should be a certain way, and if they're a girl, they should be a certain way, and you can't go outside of that, okay? Now, I quite enjoy reviewing children's books because, as you guys may or may not know, I am a children's author. I have 6 picture books out right now in my series Forever Home Friends, which is a series about dogs and cats and their stories of getting adopted, where we donate 10% of our profits to animal shelters. Linked in the description below if you're interested. We just recently released our first book about a cat. They're not all dogs anymore. Anyway, I've been writing for kids for a long time. I used to teach English to kids. I used to do school visits and do story times with kids, have kids do question and Q&As with me as an author. So I feel like I'm not like an expert. I wouldn't say that I'm like the authority on writing anything, let alone writing for children, but I would say that I have a lot of experience and I do tend to see what resonates with them. So I think it can be a lot of fun to review some of these books because this is a thing I've said before. It really does feel like a lot of the time celebrities or political commentators or influencers or just people who have a large following for something else decide, oh, I should write a book for kids because kids' books are short. They don't take that many words, so it won't be that hard for me to write this book. And then they end up writing a complete piece of shit book that isn't going to really teach kids anything because, as it turns out, teaching children is its own skill, writing for children is its own skill, child psychology is its own skill, utilizing the English language poetically is its own skill, and if your main skill is making bad jokes while talking about owning the libs, maybe you're not the best person to write a children's book, but what do I know? Maybe Steven Crowder is secretly a literary genius and I had no idea. We gotta look through the book to find out. So first, let's start with the cover. Beautiful differences. This cover is meant to show us that boys and girls are different. We have the twins right here. This is Mark and this is Maggie, a boy and a girl. And the cover is going to illustrate for us how these two are different. So for example, Mark, the boy, he has a tire swing because tire swings are masculine. And Maggie has a wooden swing because wooden swings are feminine. Why is one type of swing for boys and one type of swing for girls? I don't know. And I'll let you in on a secret. I already read this book before filming this and it never tells me in the book either. So that's a interesting choice. Mark has a ball, but Maggie has a balloon. So balls are masculine.
Phrasing.
Okay, I can kind of see that one. I'm not sure what the balloon is supposed to say though. Next, we have a little train down here. The boy has a train, but the girl has a little zip-up bag that you can put stuff in. Playing with zip-up bags and unzipping and zipping things. That type of tactile stimulation is feminine, I guess. My point is, the differences they show for these two characters are seemingly completely random and nonsensical. Like, I can see how, okay, the boy has short hair and the girl has long hair. Like, that's not universally true, but overall, the majority of people in the world tend to associate long hair with being feminine and short hair with being masculine, but that's not always true. You can find, like, I don't know, look at, like, Audrey Hepburn or someone. There's plenty of short-haired women that are also very feminine, so it's not like this is ever cut and dry, but, like, I can see how some of those things go along with, like, the gender role message that this book is trying to push. But some of this stuff is just completely random. Like, okay, Maggie is a girl and she has crowns. She has a flower crown and a golden crown. And Mark has swords. Is that like because she's supposed to be the princess that he's rescuing or something? But like, she's his sister, so I don't know. I don't know what we're going for here. But let's take a look inside the book and see what the book is going for. Now, the book rhymes, which is always an interesting choice, and also sometimes somewhat of a cop-out type of choice. A lot of times when someone is a celebrity who's famous for something other than writing books, and they want to write a children's book, they think, oh, if I make it rhyme, kids have to love it. And I admit, guys, it gets me sometimes. I have a little baby brain, and I'm a sucker for rhymes. When I hear something rhyme, I go, my brain is just a little symbol monkey half the time. I get it. But at the same time, that doesn't necessarily mean that the writing is going to be good, or that the story is going to be good, or that when you reflect on the story that it's actually going to say anything interesting, let alone say anything at all. And I notice a lot of times people try to cover up their weak writing just by making things rhyme. And I just want to be clear, making things rhyme is not a bad thing. I like rhyming a lot. That's why I bleach my hair, because I just want to be Eminem, because he rhymes all the time, right? That's the whole thing. So I love it when things rhyme, but your rhymes have to be good, they have to be meaningful, and you have to have some sort of rhythm in there. Otherwise, you're just using the rhymes to cover up the fact that the rest of your story is boring. So let's take a look. Mark and Maggie are two little twins. A boy and a girl, our story begins. I mean, I guess that's not awful, but it's also, the rhyme feels very forced. At least the meter seems like roughly right, but it's like a boy and a girl, our story begins. Our story like, the sentences feel like they're in a bad order. Like, I know he put them in that order for the sake of the rhyme, but it really feels like they were put in that order for the sake of the rhyme rather than because they were gonna make sense that way. It would make more sense to be like, two little twins, a boy and girl, Mark and Maggie, which, like, that way doesn't rhyme, but, like, the way it's written right now, I don't know. I'm being nitpicky, it's not that big of a deal, let's move on to something else. They share the same birthday, the same mom and dad, but they're still very different, and that's not so bad. Okay, I mean, that's not wrong. Twins can be different, and if that were the entire message of the book, to say, like, just because you're someone's sibling or just because you're their twin doesn't mean you have to be a carbon copy of them. You guys can have different interests, you can share a lot of things, but also have things that are uniquely you as well. So I don't think that message on its own is bad. It's when it gets into the fact that it's because they are a boy and girl, and then we're gonna see where the story goes after that into a place that just absolutely makes no sense whatsoever.
Yes. It's a lot like Star Trek, The Next Generation.
And when I say it makes no sense, it's not because I'm coming at this from the woke leftist gay agenda. I'm saying it makes no sense because it literally makes no sense. Like, logically it doesn't. We're gonna get into it, okay? I mean, like, actually no sense. Not no sense as in I'm just too clouded by my leftist woke gay echo chamber. Like, no, it actually makes no sense. You're gonna see what I mean. So I'm going through this like, okay, well, what differences is this book going to point out? Because based on the cover, it seems that the differences between boys and girls are very arbitrary. What difference and also, if a book is to teach children about the difference between boys and girls, how would it even do that? And so I was thinking like, okay, you know, I know that this set of books, this whole publishing company, is not in favor of LGBTQ people whatsoever, right? So I'm like, maybe they're talking about like, maybe this book won't be about gender roles. Maybe it will be about like biological sex differences. You could say something like, Mark has a wiener at the end of his body and Maggie has no wiener, so she sits to go potty. That rhymes. And at the very least, it's like something that most boys and most girls would have in common, but I didn't think this was a book about, like, children's anatomy. I think if you're not, like, an expert, you shouldn't be writing that. Just don't even touch that topic. Just like, oh god, no. Let's continue. I'm like, but at least, like, that would be, like, something to go off of, even if it isn't universally true. Be, like, something to go off of. Where are we going with this? I don't know. Little girls become women, and boys become men. They're different but equal. What a godsend! Alright, so first of all, that was a little bit forced, because when people say godsend, I'm pretty sure they always are emphasizing the first syllable and not the second. People don't usually say godsend! However, the meter that this is written in requires that the last syllable of the line is the stressed one. So we have, and boys become men, right? Men is the stressed syllable. So at that line too, it would say, what a godsend! And that sounds weird and awkward. It just shows that the book was like, not written with necessarily regard for rhyme scheme or meter, but more so just to pump out a book real quick to make a quick buck. At least that's how it feels to me. Also, I would like to point out the fact that this book unironically said, different but equal, in a positive way. I just, was that intentional? Do we think that was intentional? Place your bets in the comments below. Do you think that Steven Crowder originally wrote that line as separate but equal, and then the publisher made him change it? Or do you think that line was intentionally written to evoke that? I don't know, but because whenever someone brings out, they're different but equal, and says that as if it's like, this is how we should be viewing the world, is that everybody has certain immutable biological characteristics that determine the course of their life. I mean, that we know what that kind of stuff has been used to justify in the past, right? I don't have to tell you. I don't know. I'm just like, he really unironically said that. He really did. Different isn't better, lesser, or worse. Being one of a kind comes with its perks. Being one of a kind, being one of a kind, being one of a kind. The fuck is that meter, Steven? But let's find out. Let's find out what happens. So in the illustrations over here, I don't know, because my guess is that if the whole purpose of the book is supposed to tell us why little boys and little girls are different from each other, then the text and the illustration should be doing something to show us, right? So far, all the text has told us is Mark is a boy and Maggie is a girl. They have all the differences in the whole world. They are so different and they're not the same. They are different people. They have different names. Like, it hasn't, like, told us, like, what the actual gender differences between them are. But I'm wondering if the illustrations are maybe supposed to imply something. So, like, for example, see, over here, Maggie has the blue ball. On the cover, Mark had the blue ball, and it was supposed to show that the blue balls are masculine. I'm sorry. But she has it over here. Mark doesn't have it. Unless he meant to throw it to this dog and he just, like, missed wide lefts over here. I don't know, dude. But now Mark and his friend are chasing the dog. Maggie and her friend are standing there just, like, making an expression that looks like... So is that what it's saying? That, like, boys like to chase dogs and girls like to stand there and go, I don't get it. What is this saying? And then the parents are over here talking, and the male and female parents all seem to be doing the exact same thing. So I don't really understand what that is going for either in terms of the differences. This is the section where it seems like we're getting into our first difference between them. But we'll see where he kind of throws us for a loop. He kind of pulls out the rug from us, all right? There's a twist. This book has an M. Night Shyamalan type of twist in it, all right? Ready? See, Mark likes to roughhouse, wrestle, and play. Maggie likes dress up and talking all day. So I like this. It's like, boys are violent, men are violent, rough creatures, and women won't shut the fuck up. Women talk too much. The book is like, does anyone else think women talk too much? Bitches be talking. That's what this book says. Maggie likes to talk all day long. She doesn't shut the fuck up. So, okay, there we go. But we need to read a little more to see where this goes next, okay? Mark uses his hands and likes to get dirty. Maggie talks more and is sometimes quite wordy. I will say at least the rhythm there wasn't too bad. But I think that's funny. It's like, all right, so Mark has a couple interests. They include, he likes to wrestle, he likes to roughhouse, he likes to do things with his hands, he likes to put sand in a pail over and over again to prepare him for his future job in the coal mines under late-stage capitalism. Meanwhile, Maggie just wants to talk. She just cannot stop running her mouth all day. Maggie thinks she has something interesting to offer this world. What is she even talking about at this point? So Maggie just keeps talking. That's Maggie's one interest, which is, like, relatable. I like to talk. That's why I'm here on YouTube. Maybe Steven Crowder was right. Maybe it's because I'm a woman. However, the next page is where the twist comes out. This is like a Sixth Sense level twist.
That's Bruce Willis, the whole movie.
This is that kind of twist. All right, ready? Now, don't get it wrong. Little girls roughhouse too. And some boys talk a lot and haven't a clue. So first of all, the rhythm was 50 Shades of fucked in that. Like, where was even your meter in there, Steven? Some boys talk a lot. Some boys talk a lot. Some boys talk a lot and haven't a clue. How am I supposed to read that? Now, don't get it wrong. Little girls roughhouse too, and some boys talk a lot and haven't a clue. And some boys talk a lot and haven't a clue. It sounds ridiculous. Like, it just sounds so awkward. But regardless, Steven is basically acknowledging here, okay, well, I know I just said that boys like to roughhouse and they like to communicate by punching each other and acting like feral animals. And girls never shut up and like to communicate by talking all fucking day until everyone is annoyed with them. However, sometimes it's not that way. Sometimes it's the opposite. So the entire premise of the book just fell apart right here. Steven's like, boys and girls are inherently different because boys like to roughhouse and girls like to talk. That is where gender is stored. It is stored in the roughhouse or talk all day gland. Do you communicate by throwing hands or by talking until someone gets exhausted listening to you? Which one? That determines your gender. That's what Steven was over here saying. And then he was like, actually though, not necessarily, because sometimes they actually like to do the other person's thing too. So what was the beautiful difference then? What was the difference, Steven? I don't know. Let's go to the next page. Boys come in all colors, sizes, and shapes. The same goes for girls, no matter the age. That was, first of all, some of the worst fucking poetry I've ever read. I understand that rhymes don't all have to be perfect. Sometimes we can rhyme through, you know, the same vowel sound, so we have shape and age, but like, come on, these are so simple. These are all one-syllable words. You're telling me you couldn't have thought of a better rhyme for that? I don't know. I just think this line is bad. Like, I know what he's trying to convey is that, like, okay, throughout your entire life, well, I don't even know what no matter the age means. Like, obviously, if you're born as a white boy, you're gonna stay white. If you're born black, you're gonna stay black. In terms of, like, coming in different sizes and shapes, no matter the age, different people will have different yes, like, I don't understand what that means though. Okay, this page just seems like it doesn't need to exist. It does nothing to advance the story. There's no story here. This is just a really shitty poem. Some boys become strong and help those who are weak. Some choose to be bullies with big ol' mean streaks. I mean, that is true. And so we see Mark here. Mark, the hero of our story, he is trying to stop his friend who is trying to splash water out of the bird bath. So Steven here is saying it's important to be kind to animals. I think, Steven, you need to tell your friend Matt Walsh to please stop being mean to my dog Chewy. I would appreciate that. Although, I guess Steven Crowder has had a whole falling out with the Daily Wire crew based on my video last week, so maybe not. Maybe you're good, Steven. Some girls become caring, gentle, and smart. Some choose to hurt others, so get a good start. So basically, this section is saying some girls are nice and some are mean.
And then?
Some boys are nice and some are mean.
And then?
Some girls like to talk and some like to roughhouse, and some boys like to roughhouse and some boys like to talk.
No, and then.
And then?
But boys and girls are totally, completely different. I've just listed every single way in which they're the same, but they're different, and I haven't told you how. That's literally what this book is so far, okay? Also, the way that line is written, like, imagine you're a child and your mom is reading this to you and you're interpreting that literally. Like, some choose to hurt others, so get a good start. You want to start hurting other people? You better start now. Hurting other people is a skill. Being a real mean girl bully, you want to be Regina George or you want to be Gretchen Wieners. If you want to be Regina George, you better start your bullying now. Because bullying is a skill you build up over time. It's like if you want to be a violin prodigy, you can't start when you're 10. You have to start when you're 2, okay? You better start your mean girl stuff now because you can start learning how to give people good insults. You can start learning how to exclude other women at the lunch table. You better start. Get a good start if you want to be mean. There are so many differences it can drive you insane, yet in so many ways, boys and girls are the same. Steven. Now, I'm not here to say whether or not boys and girls are the same or different. I think that varies wildly based on the individual. However, Steven's entire premise for this book is that boys and girls are inherently different, and that's why we need traditional gender roles. In this book, he tried to outline ways that boys and girls were different, and then he himself literally walked them back and said, but actually the other gender has that too, so they're actually not different. And then he just repeats, there are so many differences, like what? Because every single difference that you laid out for me, you then negated on the next page. So Steven, guy who is writing this book, what are the differences, buddy? Both can be happy, angry, or sad. They both need help from mom and from dad. That's true. I agree. This book should really be called Beautiful Similarities because he's so outlined no differences yet. Mommies and daddies become a great team so their sons and their daughters can live out their dreams. Mommies and daddies! This isn't about one man, one woman. This is about 2 men, 2 women. Mommies and daddies in a bisexual polyamorous quadrant. Quadrant is not the right word. Quartet? I don't know. I've heard the word triad. What do you say if your relationship has 4 people? I don't know. Because one day dad too was a young boy, you see, back when mom was a girl, just like Maggie. Steven, did I have a stroke reading that? Let's try this again. Because one day dad too was a young boy, you see, back when mom was a girl, just like Maggie. Steven, are you sure Mark and Maggie, the little children, didn't write that sentence? Because we have a lot to unpack with what's wrong with that. Because one day dad too was a young boy, you see. So first of all, often when people say, one day. They're usually talking about like one day in the future, like one day this will happen, one day you will grow up and become someone. Now that's not to say necessarily every time, because people might say like, oh, one day I was doing this, one day dad too, but the way it starts off is like, because one day dad too. Normally if you start with one day and you don't immediately follow it with something that it orients it in the past tense, it sounds like you're about to talk about something in the future. At least that's what it sounds like to me. Because one day dad too was a young boy, you see. Like, yes, okay, and back when mom was a girl just like Maggie. First of all, the rhyme there, we don't say it like Maggie. The syllable emphasis there was horrible. Just like Maggie. Back when mom was a girl. So the first one is a sentence and the second one's a fragment. I think that's part of the issue. And I'm not here to be the poetry police, right? I think sentence fragments can be utilized in poetry if they are done effectively and done with some kind of pattern or some kind of structure. But this is just random. This is clearly like lazy writing. The first line in this stanza is a sentence, because one day dad too was a young boy you see. Okay, so that's a full sentence because we have a subject and a predicate. We have that dad is the subject and was is the verb. Okay, we have a verb phrase. And then it goes into back when mom was a girl just like Maggie. That's a dependent clause, Stephen. That is a dependent clause. Back when mom was a girl just like Maggie, then what? Then what? Unless he's trying to make this all one sentence and it's like, well, back when mom was a girl like Maggie, back then that's also when dad was a young boy. And that could be what he's trying to say, but the way he ordered these lines does not imply that at all. It's like, because one day dad too was a young boy you see, back when mom was a girl just like Maggie. Is there an editor credited in this? I don't see one. I wonder if anyone edited this book at all, because like that would be the first thing that would get rewritten. Maybe this book just shouldn't have even rhymed, because that whole sentence is just such a hot mess. So when the day's over, we can all proclaim, thank God boys and girls just aren't the same. So what was the difference? Stephen's like, thank God they're not the same. Thank God boys and girls are not the same. They're completely different. What was the difference? I read this whole book to you right now, and I still don't know a single difference between boys and girls. Not a single one. Other than if we're going by the illustrations, oh, okay, Mark likes to wear blue and Maggie likes to wear pink. But they could switch outfits and be the same, don't you think? There's a rhyme that's better than any Stephen has written. Mark likes the tire swing. He likes to swing high. Maggie likes the wooden swing because she's not a guy. There's another rhyme right there. Stephen, this book was absolutely useless. Even if you're a parent who would like this book, it doesn't serve its intended purpose at all. So I'm like, okay, let's look at like if I were the target audience. Let's say I'm a conservative mother with young children who wants to teach my kids that all of the gender ideology has gone too far and all of these gays in the media, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Let's say that I am the target audience for this book. And I sit down and read this to my kids and say, now children, aren't we glad that boys and girls are different? And little Timmy goes, Mom, actually, how are boys and girls different? Oh, well, it said in the book. Well, it said Mark liked to roughhouse, but it also said Maggie did too. So, are they actually different? Well, yeah. Well, what are the differences, Mom? Well, it said in the book. Well, what did it say in the book? Right? Like, it doesn't even serve the purpose that the target audience would want it for. It doesn't even outline anything. So I'm like, geez, what an absolute waste of the book. Let me know your thoughts on Steven Crowder's book, Beautiful Differences, in the comments below. I am very curious on your thoughts on this. I am going to continue reading children's books from the Brave Books Publishing Company. We reviewed Kirk Cameron's the other week. We've got more advertised in the back, like Elephants Are Not Birds, the anti-trans book, which probably does about as great of a job explaining gender differences as this book does. Has the whole Freedom Island series. I kind of want to read Paws Off My Cannon. I think that might be funny. Unmuzzle Me, Please. That one's the one about, I think, freedom of speech and anti-cancel culture or whatever. Which, like, I believe in freedom of speech as much as the next guy, but unmuzzle me, please. If you remember when I was reviewing Kirk Cameron's book, there was a lot of furry type shit in it. Unmuzzle me, please. Like, please muzzle me, daddy. Oh man, I can't get over these books, dude. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I will have more interesting books to review for you guys next week, but I'll see you then. In the meantime, support small businesses except for Brave Books because this company sucks ass. Bye!
We're on a mission from God.
Boom. Roasted.